Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Chargers Analytics with Arjun. And do we have some things to talk about today? I mean, out of all of the four losses we've had so far, this has to be by far the most disappointing loss, just because this is a game we easily should have won against the Vikings at home, them going on the road with five defensive starters injured, and we still managed to lose this game. We have some things to go over. Um, I think number one, we kind of have to just talk about the Chargers as a team in general. And like I brought this up in at least like three or four of my last couple of videos. You know, the Chargers are not elite. They're not great. They're good. And I said this in my last video, even after coming off this Eagles win, where we only won by three against an Eagles team, right? This Eagles team. We only won by three. I said they were a very good team, not elite, not great. They weren't with the Titans, they weren't with the Bills, and they're definitely not on the Bucks or Packers or that level. And I had people in the comments tell me like, you don't know what an elite team is. Every team has had a bad loss. Every team you know, has been blown out or lost to a bad team. But yeah, I agree. But those teams have also shown consistency in game instead of this kind of erratic type of play that the Chargers have had. And it not only stretches from just the offense, but it's in the defense as well, where now we're seeing that the run defense is slightly improved, but the pass defense is not there. Like it's not where it needs to be. And for Brandon Staley defense, to have be built around stopping the pass, which I'll get into just a little bit, for them to allow that many yards in the air and for Justin Jefferson to have that kind of a day is really disappointing to see. But like I said, the main takeaway is the Chargers are a good team. That's it. They're a playoff contender. I don't see them being Super Bowl contenders this year, unfortunately. Let me put it to you this way. Before this game, you were 5-3 with a -2 point differential. If you have a winning record with a negative point differential, what does that tell you? That either tells you we're overachieving or we got lucky in a lot of one-score games, or both. That's pretty much what's happening. The best example is the Browns from last year, right? They made the playoffs, but they had a negative point differential. Right now, we're 5-4 with a -9 point differential. And obviously, most of those points came from the Ravens game. But still, if you have a winning record with a negative point differential, then you're probably not as good as your record indicates. Like the Patriots, 6-4, they've scored 275 points and only allowed 177. So they pretty much have a plus 98 point differential. That is a good team. That is a team I would believe in, that they can make the playoffs and potentially make a run. Chargers are 5-4 with a -9 point differential, right? Other teams like the Raiders, they're 5-4 with a -20 point differential. They're not a good team, but a team like the Bengals, 5-4 plus 33 point differential. I can kind of get behind that they know how to put up points and they know how to, kind of stop other teams. But the Chargers, like I said, 5-4, negative point differential, things just are not looking good for them right now. Do I think they're trending downwards? No. Do I think some of the mistakes they've made in the past 4 weeks are fixable? Yes. Like these are fixable things that can be coached, taught, implemented, strategized, game planned for. But right now, the Chargers are not in a good place. And I'm just gonna, like, I have some stats that I want to read off that I think just resemble what I'm trying to say. So the Chargers, like I said, predicated on stopping explosive passes. So, an explosive pass can be defined as any pass that gains 15 or more yards. Brandon Staley's defense with the Rams last year, number one in least explosive plays allowed through the air. Yesterday, Vikings had 10 plays of 15 or more yards through the air. So they had 10 explosive passes, which, like I said, for a Brandon Staley-led team is, kind of unacceptable. And look, I'm all for, understanding that injuries play a part in everything, but I absolutely do not want to hear any Chargers fan talk about injuries in this matchup. None, because I'm not going to give any reason that the Chargers lost to injuries, because the Vikings were without Danielle Hunter, Michael Pierce, Anthony Barr, Patrick Peterson, and Harrison freaking Smith. 5 of the top 6 guys on that defense were out yesterday, and they held us to 20 points. Now I'm gonna show a clip just a little bit later in the video showing something that I've noticed in Justin Herbert, which is kind of concerning. But for those 5 guys to be out on the Vikings defense and to only hold us to 20 points while we're at home and almost fully healthy, except 2 guys on the offensive line, is not good. And for the Chargers to allow 10 explosive passes yesterday is not good. I understand Michael Davis is out, but I mean, you could have found, like, there should have been a way to kind of like slow down Justin Jefferson. So that was something I wasn't too happy about. I mean, the Chargers did do somewhat decent against the run, only allowed a negative 0.017 EPA per rush allowed, which is a step up than what it's been in the past. In the past couple of games, they've actually had, teams rush for a positive EPA per play or EPA per rush against them. So it's good that, they've kind of made improvements in that area. But again, like, the Chargers should have won this game. The Vikings had 10 penalties for 118 yards. And this goes back to the explosive passes. The Vikings got backed up multiple times on the game-winning drive, yet they still have found explosive play after explosive play. And honestly, it's probably due to, Thielen and Jefferson just being better than our corners. But again, like, there should have been a way to negate that. Like, there should have been a way that we should try to be forcing them to win with KJ Osborne or Tyler Conklin or some of their other guys, like implementing like a Bill Belichick strategy. And so, that was another stat, 10 penalties for 118 yards for them, and they still won the game. We forced 20, where is it? We forced 21 pressures. They only forced 11. Like, we won the trenches game. We were winning in the trenches and we still couldn't come out with a win. That was disappointing, that even though our pass rushers were getting there, it's just like we couldn't make a stop or our coverage let us down, not our defensive line. And so again, the NFL is a week-to-week league. The first couple of weeks, it was the secondary that was playing amazing, or not amazing. The secondary was holding up, and it was the pass rush or the D line that wasn't doing their job. Now it seems to have flip-flopped after Justin Jones came back and Michael Davis goes out. The secondary is letting us down time after time again. And this D line is the one holding up and, being somewhat sturdy against the run. And lastly, obviously, the 3 drops, that's huge. Can't have 3 drops in the game. And all of them were in crucial situations where, I feel like the Chargers could have got points. And the last point I want to bring up about this game is that the end of the first half drive where the Chargers got the ball at the 50-yard line. Yeah, the 50-yard line with a minute to go. You have to put up points there, especially when you're losing by 3. If your defense gets you the ball at the 50-yard line and you don't put up points there, you only get 4 yards on 3 plays at the end of the half, something's wrong. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the play calling or player execution. At this point, I think it's just a mixture of both. That, like, Joe Lombardi, I could do a whole nother video about him, like giving my opinion on him. I don't think he's been horrible the last couple of weeks, but, the players aren't executing drop passes, mistimed routes. It seems like every play is coming down to like 1 or 2 seconds on the play clock. Like, they're not getting set in time. The play call is coming in late. And the whole idea of like tempo, and we want to keep the defense off balance, I just don't see it. I haven't been seeing it. So that's going to take me to this clip that I wanted to highlight. So one of the weaknesses and things that I'm a little bit concerned about for Justin Herbert is it doesn't seem like he's able to make a lot of pre-snap reads very well. It's not a trait that he developed in college, especially in the Pac-12 where, he was just running a lot of no huddle stuff. He never really saw these exotic fronts like you see in the NFL. And the problem to me is I think Joe Lombardi and the rest of the coaching staff are expecting him to be able to make these reads pre-snap like he's Drew Brees, but he's not Drew Brees. He's a second-year quarterback out of Oregon. The Pac-12 isn't notoriously known for defenses like the SEC, so you don't see these type of pro-style defenses. And, in the past 4 weeks, Belichick, Martindale, and Mike Zimmer, 3 of the best defensive minds in football, have been able to just disguise their looks pre-snap. And you'll have plays like this where they're in nickel and they have their two linebackers on the A gap. So they're threatening to just, send 6 and the rest play coverage. But what actually happens is the 2 linebackers drop out and no one's open. Like, who's open here? And, you can look at this was, I believe, the 1st and 10 on the 50 that I was just talking about. And so when these guys bail out, who's open? I guess Guyton, you could take Guyton there, but no one's really open. And it's those quick game type concepts that the Chargers are trying to run. They're trying to force the same system on Justin Herbert, and I just don't see it. I just don't. And so, as much as efficient as the Saints offense was during Drew Brees' prime, during the height of his powers, during 2018 when he had one of the best seasons of his career, it's not an offense that I feel like Justin Herbert can run at this point because he doesn't have the pre-snap. Like I don't think he's able to diagnose things pre-snap like Drew Brees was. And if we go back to the clip I was just showing you, these exact looks are what teams are showing. It's these cover zero looks where they bail out at the last second, or they send one or two, send a stunt somewhere, and no one's really open. The reason Herbert did so well against the Eagles is because they don't disguise at all. Like they have one of the most vanilla defensive schemes in the NFL. So when Justin Herbert, all he has to do is, if they're not disguising anything, he's going to shred them. That's a good thing. But when they do disguise, and it's not really something that you can really see in the data, it's a film thing. When they do disguise their looks, he just doesn't perform well. And I think that's partly because they're asking him to do a lot. The next thing I wanted to talk about some of the passing maps, like this passing map. The average depth of target is not something I'm too concerned about. Obviously, they actually didn't have a single pass travel more than 20 air yards. So, you can do whatever you want with that information. The Vikings could just be trying to limit those explosive passes. But what I'm more concerned about is this: all these passes on the right side, and it's not Justin Herbert only being able to throw to his right side. It's the whole idea of the quick game concepts that the Saints used to run, where it's just a small one step, 3-step drop back, and they hit a guy on an RPO look. Like Justin Herbert had so much success yesterday on those RPOs, on those play actions, but they got him outside the pocket and in rhythm. But they seem to try to make him a pocket quarterback, and it just didn't work out as well. Especially for a defense down 5 starters, this is the type of game plan that they had, the type of passing map that they end up with. It's not something that's too encouraging to see. And then finally, this is a passing map, like a heat chart for what the Chargers receivers run and what the Saints receivers ran in 2018 and 2019. As you can see, there's a ton of routes that are run within 0 to 10 yards outside of the hashes. So a lot of spot concepts, a lot of slants, a lot of digs, drags on both the left and right side. But the difference is the Saints offense targeted the middle of the field at a high rate because Drew Brees can make those throws. I believe Justin Herbert can make those throws. And I think the Chargers the Chargers know that Justin Herbert can make any throw in the book. But I think what I am struggling to understand is they're forcing him to make those difficult throws. And even though he can make it, it's a difficult throw. So obviously the probability that it completes the pass, that it goes for a positive play, is much lower than if they target the middle of the field, which traditionally has a higher EPA, attributed to it. So, I want to, hopefully the last half of the season, we get to see some of these, middle of the field concepts come to life, a little more play action here and there. But overall right now, there isn't a ton to be excited about, honestly, with the Chargers offense. And like I said, the Eagles game was great. Obviously, props to Justin Herbert and Lombardi for a good game plan there. But like I said, the Eagles don't have a super complex scheme to diagnose. So if Herbert can beat terrible schemes, great. But if he can't beat good defensive minds, he's not going to do well in the playoffs. And that's just a fact. So that's going to determine whether or not the Chargers are Super Bowl contenders this year. I personally, like I said, playoff contenders at best. They have to make the playoffs first. They have a pretty relatively easy schedule going forward, but they have to take advantage of every game, and that starts with this weekend. Let's just go over the Steelers real quick, and then we'll head out of here. Steelers right now, 23rd best offense in the NFL. I don't care if they have Big Ben or Mason Rudolph. This offense is not good. Najee Harris, he's okay. But if anything, like that offensive line isn't that great. I just got the news that Kevin Dotson is going to be out this weekend. So, that offensive line, which wasn't the best, just got worse. So got to take advantage of that, keep the Steelers behind the sticks, force them to throw the ball, because if they're just going to run the ball the entire game, the time of possession thing is going to be in the Steelers' favor. And by the way, personally, I don't really care about the time of possession thing. I never played football. I'm just a football nerd. I just look at data and stuff, right? Obviously. And I'm kidding, but I understand how fatigue works and how, if a defense goes on like an 8-minute drive, lets up a touchdown, and then the offense goes three and out, it's tough on the defense to really get back in rhythm, on just a short rest. So, you don't really want to let the Steelers control the clock as much from from a physical perspective. The data doesn't really support that time of possession has any correlation with winning or EPA or things like that. So yeah, so Steelers, not a really good offense. They're decent at running the ball, right about league average, not good at all at passing the ball, which obviously is expected, and no Juju anymore. So really you have 2 targets, 3 maybe to worry about, and Deontay Johnson, who's, a pretty solid emerging receiver, Claypool, and then Najee Harris. Freiermuth, I'm not too concerned about. Defensively wise, the defense is good for the Steelers. They obviously have one of the best defensive lines in the league. Currently, they're ranked 12th in EPA per play allowed. So they're gonna be stingy. They're gonna be a stingy unit, probably one of the better ones the Chargers have seen this year. I don't believe the Steelers really disguise their looks too often. They kind of just tell their players go win, and they have the guys to do it. I'm not sure about the status of TJ Watt, but that's going to be huge, determining what type of game plan the Chargers have, because TJ Watt loves to line up on that right tackle, and Jordan Morton's that right tackle. So if TJ Watt isn't playing, maybe the Chargers go with a more aggressive game plan where they take more shots down the field. Herbert holds onto the ball a little bit longer. But if he is playing, I do expect it to be another game of just quick passes. Herbert throwing the ball under like 2.5 seconds, just because I think that's how Staley and Lombardi are trying to hide the weakness that is Storm Norton and Michael Schofield. All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Like I said, Steelers should be a win this Sunday night. It's a big game. Everyone's going to be watching. Like I said, this is a Chargers team that everyone had a lot of hopes for, especially after the 4-1 start. They haven't really done anything to back that up. I still believe in them. Playoff team. They need to show me that they can really be a Super Bowl contender before I appoint them in that category, because right now they're just way too inconsistent on both sides of the ball, allowing too many explosive passes on defense, not having a lot of explosive plays on offense. There needs to be some type of cohesion. Injuries aren't the problem to me. It's just execution and better play calling all around. So just going to wrap it up. Thank you for watching till the end of the episode. With that, as always, Bolts up.